Welcome to Brooklyn, home of the 2026 NBA Draft at the Barclays Center. Tonight, lives will be changed, franchise-altering decisions will be made, superstars will join their new teams, and colossal busts will set their franchise back for years. We've got a lot to go over in what is certainly the biggest and most important episode of the series so far. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Don't forget to hype the video as well down below next to the comments section. I want to make this the most hyped video of the series so far. We've made it to the top 20 on the leaderboard before. Let's get even higher, shall we? Last episode, we had our final prospect profile, going over many of the notable prospects in this year's class, a lot of whom will certainly be in play for our first rounder. We went through the end of the season and the playoffs where the Denver Nuggets ended up winning the finals over the Minnesota Timberwolves, and of course the draft lottery. Charlotte won the number 1 pick with Utah, Washington, and the Sonics in the top 4. We had the number 5 odds and ultimately dropped to number 6. There was not a lot of movement in the lottery. The tanking teams were rewarded for being bad. We moved out of the top 5, but we still hold a high pick in this year's draft. 6 in the first round, 5 in the second round. And as we've talked about throughout the entire year, there really is not a consensus top group of players in this class. So the mock drafts are all over the place. There's 3 different guys projected to go number 1. This could be one of the most unpredictable drafts we have seen in quite some time. This feels reminiscent to the 2024 draft in the sense that I don't think there's a franchise-altering superstar, but I see a lot of good players who are going to stick around in this league for a while. We've got the players, we've got the picks to make moves if we want. We're not trading pick 6 for Paul George. That would be really stupid. Most of the trades in the trade finder here are not good, but once we're on the clock, we will certainly consider all of our options in terms of trading, because maybe trading down makes sense for us, or maybe moving up. Maybe one of the top guys in this class, we're willing to mortgage multiple draft picks in the future to go up and get. We do have to complete our pre-draft workouts. We can invite, I believe, 12 players to the facility. I don't think it makes sense to invite 6 guys for the number 6 pick. I think we should invite more because, truthfully, there's more players I'm considering at number 6 and beyond if we move down. Romeo De La Rosa and Tony Moriano are really the only 2 guys who I think have a 0% chance of making it to the number 6 pick. Otherwise, I could see anybody else in this class making it that far, and I'm certainly going to consider my options down the board, trade down options from number 6, or trade up options early in the second round. Julian Wright from Syracuse I thought was the most impressive player at the workout. He was really good during the combine as well, and for a top prospect to not only show up at the combine but dominate really says a lot. I thought Tyler Rose did pretty well other than the NBA three-point shooting drills. We know he's not a great perimeter shooter. Jalen Wicks from Georgia, I thought he killed it in just about every test. He really impressed me. Jarate Sprinkle from Alabama, he really shot the ball well. And then Mark Singleton, the big man from Duke, I thought put up a pretty good showing as well. Arguably the most polarizing prospect in this year's draft. Before we get started, though, we do have some trades to go over across the league. You guys know from previous series that I love to make big moves right around the draft time for other teams in the NBA. So we're going to start small and then work our way up to some blockbuster trades. We'll start with the Thunder and the Bulls. OKC, missing out on the play-in entirely this year. They acquired Nick Claxton from the Nets, trying to add some rim protection. Didn't really work. So they're looking to get off his contract and are trading him to the Bulls in exchange for Jalen Smith, who's cheaper and really not that much worse. They're going to swap first rounders, number 14 going to the Bulls for number 15, so only a 1-pick swap, and then the Thunder will add 2 additional seconds. OKC made that move so they get some room at the 5 for Jarrett Allen. The Thunder will be sending away Alex Caruso and 2 first-round picks, numbered, I believe, 19 and 25 from the Sixers and Clippers, respectively. The thought here is that Caruso's coming off a pretty disappointing season last year, and the Thunder have guys like Cason Wallace and Lou Dort, who they hope to re-sign, who can play minutes at the 2. And by getting Jarrett Allen, they get someone who they believe can fit nicely with Chet Holmgren in the front court. Allen was a little disappointing last year in Cleveland, and the Cavs don't feel confident with him and Mobley as a front court pairing. What they do need is a really good defender on the perimeter. They were the number 2 seed and lost in the first round to Detroit because they had nobody who could guard Cade Cunningham. Now they have someone who can do that, and they add 2 first-round picks in the process, one of which is headed to Dallas. They still need a competent starting center, so they'll be getting Daniel Gafford from the Mavericks. Dallas feels confident with Derek Lively and Anthony Davis's health, and they think that they can get some better fits for their roster, specifically Max Strus, who shot the 3 ball at a high clip last year, nearly 41% from deep. So Strus, the 19th pick, and 2 second-rounders are going to the Mavericks for Daniel Gafford. Cleveland and Oklahoma City both reshuffling, both feeling like their rosters are not good enough to win championships as they currently are. Let's start to get some of the bigger moves. The Portland Trail Blazers, I think, are on the verge of being one of the better teams in the Western Conference, and they are sick of waiting. Jeremy Grant, the 11th pick and 4 seconds, will get them Lauri Markkanen and a future first-round pick from the Utah Jazz. So this is a lot to give up, in my opinion, but Lauri Markkanen is coming off a strong season. He was really disappointing in 2024-25, but really rebounded this year, getting back some of his prior trade value. He's under contract for a while, so I think the Jazz are okay moving off of him because it gives them more long-term financial flexibility. Jeremy Grant was really good last year. I know this is being talked about as a bad contract, but he was terrific a season ago, and I could see contenders wanting Grant at the trade deadline or later in the offseason. The Jazz had another lottery pick, number 11. The Blazers get a first-rounder next year. It's not going to be a very high pick. Minnesota, Cleveland, swap wars. That's going to be right at the end of the first round. And then the Jazz had 4 seconds. They only have 1 second over the next 5 years. The Pistons are trading the 17th pick to the Hornets for 2 protected future first-round picks and some second-round swaps. The thought here for Detroit is they do not need all these second-round picks because they have a lot. What they do want is future first-round picks because they want to start collecting draft picks to go out and make a move for a second star to pair with Cade Cunningham. The Hornets, meanwhile, add their 3rd pick of the first round. The Lakers will be making a somewhat similar move, trading pick 16 and Marcus Smart to the Thunder. They don't have a lot of future picks. They don't have a lot of second-rounders. OKC does. So the Thunder will be giving them a protected Nuggets pick next year, along with 3 current second-rounders and 2 future seconds. All right, now it's time for the big trades. We'll start in New Orleans. The Pelicans won 41 games last year. They took a major step up, but they're just sick of Zion. 31 games played this year, which, compared to some of his previous seasons, is honestly on the high note. He's only played more than 31 games once in the last 5 years. The guy's a darn good player, but he does not stay on the floor, which really hurts his trade value, so they're not going to get that much back. Ultimately, he's going to the Spurs. San Antonio's thought is, why not add another weapon on offense? How are teams supposed to guard Zion Williamson and Victor Wembanyama? Well, the answer is to take Zion out of the game by him getting hurt, which feels pretty likely. But when he's on the floor with Wemby, that feels like nearly an impossible duo to stop. The Pelicans are getting Miles Bridges to replace Zion at the 4 and match the salaries along with 2 first-rounders, neither of which are that valuable. Zion's only 3 stars in the trade machine. He just doesn't play games, and because of that, his value will be severely diminished. The Hornets, with the number 1 pick, are trading away LaMelo Ball. He's been in Charlotte for 6 seasons now, and he's got a lot of similar issues to Zion in the sense that he doesn't play a lot of basketball. Now, this season, he was fairly healthy, 66 games. He's played more games than Zion in one last season. So health is less of a concern with LaMelo, but the Hornets were one of the worst teams in the league with him playing 66 games. What does that say about LaMelo? Charlotte is looking to tear it down, start fresh, and since he's got 3 years left on his deal, he's actually going to have quite a bit of value. So the Raptors are going to trade RJ Barrett, who is just kind of bad at this point, along with the 8th overall pick and a future Pacers selection to get this done. So Toronto now adds another really intriguing player to their core. They keep all of their own future draft picks other than number 8. Charlotte now has 2 lottery picks and 4 first-rounders overall. Got to imagine by trading away LaMelo Ball, they're going to be targeting a guard, number 1. Tony Mariano, Romeo De La Rosa, or even Tyler Rose, I imagine, are all in play for Charlotte. So those are our moves. Zion to the Spurs, LaMelo to the Raptors, and a handful of other trades across the league as well. Before we get started, one more thing to go over. This draft class is available for use. If you would like to download it, go into the 2K Share Scenarios tab and then type in my PSN. There is a scenario to the end of season number 1 where we start in the playoffs, so that's where you will enter. Again, a major shout out to Frank, who created the draft class this year. I'll leave his social medias in the description. You can follow him. You can also follow me if you want. I recommend. But there you go. You can have the draft class. You can save the class if you want to put it into your own MyNBA save files. And the thing that I'll point out that makes this draft class from Frank here special is that in my previous series, most of the players drafted towards the top end up being pretty good. That's not how it is in the NBA. There's a lot of busts in the top 10, and this draft class accounts for that. Many of the top prospects are not going to pan out, just as we see in real life. So scouting correctly and obviously a little bit of luck will be needed to find the right prospects in this year's draft. Without further ado, let's get this show on the road. Our very first draft in NBA history. We own the 6th overall pick. Let's see who goes in the top 5. We'll start in Charlotte. With the first pick of the 2026 NBA draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Tony Mariano, a point guard from Italy. No major surprise here with the LaMelo Ball trade. This selection felt kind of inevitable, and I see why they moved LaMelo now. I don't really see a world where these two guys fit together, and Charlotte clearly is really high on Tony Mariano, so much so that they're willing to trade their 24-year-old all-star in LaMelo Ball. Mariano is a 6'8" point guard who compares nicely to guys like Luka Doncic and Cade Cunningham. He's not the fastest, he's not the most athletic, he's not the best shooter, but man, he wins with finesse. He's a really good shot maker, really solid defender. He can guard multiple positions, and of course, has a keen eye as a passer. Over our previous couple of series on 2K, the very first player drafted in year 1 has usually been a surprise. Martin Seifa last year with the Jazz, Cade Foster the year before with the Hornets, and in hindsight, both of those ended up being pretty good picks. At number 2, the Utah Jazz select Romeo De La Rosa from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and the University of Florida. I like this pick a lot for the Jazz. They're a team who needs a young guy with legitimate all-NBA upside, and I think De La Rosa has that type of ceiling. A 6'10" combo guard who can play the 1 through the 4. He's a gritty, tough defender who's got the size and length to be a major asset on that end of the floor. He's phenomenal at going to the basket. He's a really solid three-point shooter and a very good shot maker, something that this Jazz team is severely lacking. They added Ace Bailey and Walter Clayton in the first round last year. Both of those guys can create their own shot at a high level. And now De La Rosa. His on- and off-ball versatility, I think, will make him a great player at the next level. With the third pick, the Washington Wizards select Tyler Rose from the University of Washington. The Wizards have added some talented guards in recent years. Trey Johnson in the first round last year, Bub Carrington the year before. Neither of those guys are true point guards, though. I view Bub more as a combo guard and Trey Johnson more as a 2. Tyler Rose is a true point guard. This is someone who can run the offense. He's a really good slasher. The three-point shot is not there. That's got to get better if he wants to be a high-level offensive engine in the NBA. If he does become a three-point shooter, then I think he's going to be a great point guard in this league. With his athleticism, with his size, 6'5", 210. Outside of the shot, he's got just about everything else you look for in a high-level guard. No major surprises so far in the top 3 as the Seattle Sonics select Julian Wright out of Syracuse at number 4. Their first pick in franchise history, or at least the new version of their franchise. Wright is a grown man trapped as an 18-year-old. He's 6'8", 235 pounds. This is a large hunk of man who's an extremely impressive athlete. He can play above the rim. He can fly as well. He's really fast, good shot maker, pretty good defender. He doesn't really have any one skill that he's great at, but he doesn't have many major weaknesses. And when you combine that with the size and the athleticism, I think the Sonics just hit a home run. With the 5th pick, the Boston Celtics select Jalen Wicks from the University of Georgia. This fit makes a ton of sense in my opinion. The Celtics are obviously a team who's regularly in the playoffs, and with Jason Tatum back next season from his Achilles tear, They're expected to compete in the Eastern Conference. So why not get a guy who feels like a really good complement for a Jason Tatum-led team? As I've talked about with Wicks, I don't think he's ever going to be an all-star. I do believe that he's going to stick around in this league for a decade and start in multiple playoff games. He is the traditional 3-and-D guy. He's got a flamethrower from beyond the arc and is a really good defender on the perimeter. I think he fits perfectly on a contending team like Boston, and I'm happy he's going to a good team rather than someone towards the bottom of the standings. And with that, the Las Vegas High Rollers are on the clock for our very first selection in team history at number 6 overall. We ultimately decided not to move up. I feel like there's enough good prospects where someone's going to fall to number 6. And there are a couple guys who I am quite intrigued by who are still on the board. However, I feel like we have to at least do our due diligence on the trade market and see what could be available for this selection, because I'm certainly willing to move it if it means we can get some future draft picks and not Paul George. No. Most of these trade offers are pretty similar to what we saw earlier. This one's not that bad, Kobe White, but I don't think Atlanta would do that, especially with Trae Young's contract status for next year uncertain. I like Trey Murphy a lot, but I'm not giving up the 27 first rounder. This is an interesting one. The 10th pick in Dillon Brooks. When I was originally thinking about trade downs, I thought number 10 would be perfect. The problem is I don't really want Dillon Brooks back. I'd rather get some kind of future first rounder. But unfortunately, the Suns don't really have many choices because they don't have many draft picks to begin with. And the only ones they can trade would be like this one in 2029, Cleveland and Minnesota. The Wolves are certainly going to be good in 2029. I think the Cavs will be as well. That Rocket pick maybe would be interesting because Kevin Durant probably will be gone at that point. But I just don't think this makes the most sense for us. So I ended up looking around at some other teams. I don't want to move further than number 10, so I tried 9 with the Nets. And they really want our 2027 pick, more so than number 6. I really value our 2027 pick very highly, so I'm not going to do that. What about Charlotte number 8? They've got 17 and 18, keep in mind. Maybe we could get one of those picks to move down 2 spots. This one's an interesting one. We move down 2 and we get Trey Mann, who I believe is a pretty good player. I'd rather get a future draft pick or one of their mid-first rounders this year, but it's not the worst idea. What about this? We would get 8 and 17 back for number 6 with a swap of players. I think that's pretty fair value for us. We would be getting 2 first-round picks for 1, essentially, and it gives us 2 darts to throw at the dartboard, and that's really what the NBA draft is. However, I am going to say no, because there's one guy I really want, and I am 99% sure that is who Charlotte would be trading up for. So we are going to stay on the board at number 6. Who's it going to be? Latanka McClain, the undersized but talented big. Mark Singleton, the 7'3 specimen from Duke. Amon Cuvier, the talented big from France. Draven Donut, the dynamic shooter from Xavier. Or are we going to pull a fast one and choose a surprise? With the 6th pick in the 2026 NBA Draft, the Las Vegas High Rollers select Mark Singleton from Duke University. So the Rollers are taking the gamble. We're a team that's not afraid to take risks. I mean, our team name is literally the High Rollers. So why not take the riskiest, yet highest ceiling prospect in the entire draft? Mark Singleton is a once-in-a-generation physical specimen. Towering height, ridiculous wingspan. You do not find guys who are 7'3", 245 pounds very often. However, I would not get so excited because it turns out the Duke website lied. He's not 7'3", 245. He's only 7'1", 225. We found this out measuring him at our pre-draft workout. However, that's not going to stop us from picking him. Sure, I'd rather him be 7'3", but he is still an absolute giant and is very much worthy of the 6th pick. He's a 78 overall, which is tied for the highest rated prospect in the draft. I would not get so excited yet because a lot of the players in this class are going to play much lower than their ratings suggest, them being the busts. It could be Mark Singleton because he's got a lot of weaknesses but also a lot of strengths to his game. You don't find many 7-footers who can shoot the ball like he did. 41% from beyond the arc this year, a major surprise. When Duke recruited him, they didn't expect him to be a floor spacer, but he's done exactly that. He's a guy who's very reliable in the pick and roll. I think he can be someone who's a good roller to the basket, which makes him a good fit for our team named the Rollers. He's a really good rim protector, which you would hope for, being 7'1" with a 7'10" wingspan. He's a dynamic shot blocker who averaged nearly 4 blocks per 40 minutes this year at Duke. The problem with Singleton is that his feel for the game is rough. He started playing basketball at 15 years old. He actually grew up playing soccer, and you can tell the kid is really raw. He does not play like a 78 overall, and there will be a major adjustment period. I don't think he's going to come into the lineup and instantly be our top scorer and our most impactful player. We're going to have to be patient with Mark Singleton, but if, and that's a big if, but if he develops, I think he has the highest ceiling of anybody in the entire draft. It's only right that the team from Las Vegas makes the biggest gamble in the 2026 NBA draft. We are high rolling for a superstar, and hopefully Mark Singleton can be that guy. As we continue forward, Draven Donut goes at number 7 to the Bulls. He was projected to go at number 6 in one of the mock drafts to us, and originally I was a little bit surprised, but clearly there was enough top 10 buzz for him to end up going in the top 10. A first-team All-American at one of the number 1 seeds in Xavier. Donut's a guy who I think is going to transition nicely to the NBA. He can create his own shot from beyond the arc. He's a good catch-and-shoot guy, good perimeter defender. The Bulls quietly have a lot of picks, multiple first-rounders in each of the next 3 years, including another lottery pick tonight. So rather than taking the big swing on upside like we did, they're picking a guy who they're confident is going to stick in the league for a while and contribute early. Kayvon Rivers at number 8 to the Charlotte Hornets. This fully confirms that had Charlotte moved up to number 6, they would have picked Mark Singleton. So we made a good decision not taking the trade with them. Rivers is basically Mark Singleton, but a little bit less exciting. He's a little bit shorter at 7 foot. He's a little bit worse of a three-point shooter. He's a little bit worse of a defender, but he's a very similar archetype, being a stretch big who plays really good defense with really good size and length. I'm not surprised he went in the top 10, even though he was inconsistent at Baylor this year. The tools are really, really exciting. Very similar to that of Mark Singleton at Duke. LaTonka McClain, the Tonka Truck, at number 9 to the Brooklyn Nets. He's a fascinating build. He's a 6'8", small ball 5, essentially. He mostly played the center position at Texas because he plays at his best around the basket. He's not really got much of an outside presence on offense, but he's a pretty good rim protector. He's a very good screener. He's a very good rim runner, good rebounder. Being 6'8", though, is a small ball 5 in the NBA. He might be a little bit of a tweener, which is ultimately what scared me off of him at number 6. But he's a good player, good feel for the game. I think he's got a chance to stick around in this league for a while. The Phoenix Suns at number 10 select Jamie Thompson from UCLA. A dynamic 6'10", 3-level scorer who I believe projects out to be possibly one of the better offensive players in this draft. He's also a disruptor on defense. He's not consistent yet on that end of the floor, but it's not for a lack of effort. Gets his hands in the passing lanes. I think he's got the size to match up with bigs, but he's also got the quickness to hang with guards on the perimeter. He was definitely a guy I thought about at number 6. I think he's going to be a really good player in this league, and I really like that pick for the Suns. The Jazz at number 11 select Michael Andrews from the University of Florida. So the two Gator guards are reunited in Utah. They drafted De La Rosa at number 2, and now Michael Andrews at number 11. Box office must-watch television, as I've described him. He's one of the most exciting scorers and overall offensive players in college basketball. Him and Romeo De La Rosa were such a fun duo, and I'm really excited to see them back together. The highest-rated player on the Jazz is De La Rosa at a 78. This roster is going to be rough. So the two of these guys are going to be able to learn and grow together. I don't know what this means for Walter Clayton, though, another former Gator, because these two guys are kind of taking his role, so maybe he's available via trade. The Pacers at number 12 select Aban Cuvier, the 7-footer from France. They really missed Miles Turner this past season, and while I don't think Cuvier will be the offensive player and certainly not the shooter that Miles Turner is, he can give them some of that rim protection that they have missed. The offense has got to get better. It's not really at a great spot right now, but he's only 18 years old. He's one of the youngest players in the entire draft, and I really like what he provides defensively. Someone who's extremely mobile around the basket and is a great shot blocker. At 13, the Miami Heat select Osiris Buckley from UConn. Buckley and Cuvier have been attached at the hip throughout the pre-draft process because I think they're very similar as prospects. Sure enough, they only go one pick apart. Buckley is a traditional 7-footer who, like Cuvier, is a really good shot blocker. I think he's better offensively, especially inside. He's got better touch around the basket. He's a little bit better in the pick and roll. So I think he's going to be the better player early on compared to Cuvier, but the Pacers clearly prefer the upside, while the Heat get someone who I think is more ready to go. Cole Bird at number 14 to the Chicago Bulls. So much like their first pick, they're prioritizing shooting and early production rather than upside. I don't think Bird is going to have too hard of a time adjusting to the NBA. I think his skill set is tailor-made to be a solid role-playing 3, given his great ability to catch and shoot. Those types of players are invaluable for contending teams, and I think the Bulls are going to love what he provides as a floor spacer. Back-to-back picks for the Thunder. They start with Micah Steiner out of Miami. The junior was one of the most exciting players in college basketball. 6'8", 250, built with power, but can play with finesse. The Thunder will like his positional flexibility on defense. They're going to like his connecting ability on offense. This is a guy who knows where to be at all times. He's a good screener. He's good within 15 feet as a scorer. I think he fits their group really, really well. And then with their second choice, they get Jarate Sprinkle from the University of Alabama. This is a guy who, again, I think fits the Thunder really well. Really good three-point shooter, really solid perimeter defender. This is a guy who I think has a chance to be a good role player. The Thunder with these 2 picks are looking for guys who can give them rotation minutes in the playoffs, and I think both of these guys have a chance to do that at some point during their rookie contracts. We're going to move a little faster now that we're outside of the lottery. Back-to-back picks for the Hornets. They start with Henri St-Fleur from Canada. He is a 7-footer who's very solid around the basket. I think offensively he's a little bit better than both Amon Cuvier and Osiris Buckley. I think he's better in the mid-range. I don't think he's quite as good as either of them defensively, though, which is why he goes a little bit lower. And then Charlotte's 4th first-rounder of the day, they get Jacoby Kane from UCLA. A lot of similarities to his UCLA teammate, Jamie Thompson, who went number 10. Kane is a solid 3-level scorer, good post defender, 6'11", 235. I like the size. I think he's got a chance to be a high-level rotation player as a rookie for the Hornets. Back-to-back picks now for the Mavericks. They start with Rhino Salavea from Hawaii. One of the better shooters in this class, and overall, a well-rounded 3-level scorer. Not a great defender, not a great playmaker, but this is a guy who's going to give Dallas buckets off the bench. And then at number 20, Mako Hardaway from Auburn, the National Player of the Year, leading the Tigers to a national championship. Hardaway had a fantastic senior season this year at Auburn and ends up getting selected in the first round as a result. Very good offensive player around the basket. He's got great touch. He's really hard to guard because the guy does not miss in the paint. I think he'll be a really good backup for Derek Lively with the loss of Daniel Gafford. Mirko Marovic from Croatia at number 21 to the Kings. He got some top 10 buzz throughout the year. I never really saw it with him. I think this is more appropriate for his range. 6'7", 210 pounds. I like his feel as a playmaker. You see that a lot with these international prospects who are just generally smarter and more aware than a lot of American prospects nowadays. Karthik Patel, number 22 to the Jazz. The big man hailing from India is headed to Utah. He reminds me in some ways of Walker Kessler, so it's a little bit odd given that the Jazz have been trying to trade him forever. Patel is 305 pounds. It's really hard to guard him inside because he's just bigger and stronger than everyone defending him. Séverine Diawara from France goes to the Pelicans at number 23. He's got some juice offensively. He can score from all 3 levels. Granted, he's very inconsistent as a shooter. He's got solid feel for the game as a playmaker as well. Versatile defender. He can guard multiple positions, although he doesn't do it at a very high level. We have not had any trades during the draft. This is supposed to be one of those unpredictable drafts ever. Yet I would argue it's been kind of the opposite. The Celtics at number 24 get Marcus Bennett. Ooh, I like that pick. I didn't think he was going to fall to us in the second round, but I was kind of crossing my fingers that maybe he would. Bennett's a really, really good defensive prospect. Probably the best defensive guard in this draft. He's a very good transition player offensively. Very good full court player offensively, but he doesn't really have a three-point shot yet. The Celtics are going to get the next pick as well, trading Sam Hauser and Clint Capella to the Cavs for 25. Finally, a trade. Cleveland got this pick in the Jarrett Allen deal, so both of the first rounders they got from OKC, they used to get role players, Hauser and Capella, giving them more depth, while the Celtics select Cameron Foster from USC. In my opinion, the best outside shooter in this class. Shooting is something the Celtics have certainly prioritized with both Jalen Wicks and Cameron Foster. That certainly makes up for the fact that Marcus Bennett is not a very good three-point shooter. I think the Celtics have had an outstanding draft. I think they've hit it out the park. Terrence Coleman from Michigan State to the Hawks. First-team All-American. This is a throwback, rugged style of big. Reminds me a little bit of Zach Randolph with the Grizzlies. Big Z-Bo. Coleman's a really solid scorer. Not a great defender, though, and certainly not the rebounder that Zach Randolph was. But I think he'll be a good fit for a contending Hawks team. Devontae Cooks at number 27 to the Bucks. He was one of my top targets for the second round. I'm a big fan of his game. Only 18 years old. Inconsistent shooter, but there were some impressive shooting flashes. He can guard multiple positions, although he's a little inconsistent in that area. I don't think he's ready to play as a rotation guy this year, but I think his skill set is tailor-made to be a successful player in the NBA, and that's a big reason why I ended up being really high on Cooks. Angelo Lombardi from Rutgers stays in the New York area, going to the Knicks. 6'9", 265. There are a lot of really big players in this draft. He's a good three-point shooter. He's a pretty solid defender in the post. High-level production, all first-team Big Ten this year with the Scarlet Knights. And he's not going to have to move too far. Low moving costs. Hans Steinbach goes to the Timberwolves at number 29. Really raw player. I don't think he's ready to contribute for them early on. They're okay with drafting raw players. They just did it last year with Johan Berenger, a player who they are quite high on. Steinbach presents a lot of excitement defensively. He can guard multiple positions at a high level. The offense just is not there yet. Nick Rektoric goes to the Cavs at number 30, so they will keep their own first rounder. Rektoric is an inconsistent but talented scorer who is a really good passer, one of the better playmakers in this draft. The Nuggets at number 31 select Gabriel Cortez, a 6'6" point guard from Spain. Projected lottery pick for much of the year. His stock went down, but I think there's a lot of upside with him. The three-point shot is not good, but everything else looks pretty solid. I think he's got a chance to end up being a steal for the Nuggets towards the end of the first round. And then at number 32, the Los Angeles Lakers select London Stamford from England. He's a 76 overall. This is really good value at the end of the first round. Stanford is also not a very good shooter, but he's got a good feel for the game as a playmaker. He's going to be a very nice depth piece for them as a combo guard sitting behind Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves. Throughout the pre-draft process, I was concerned about the low level of competition he played against, but if you can ball, you can ball. So that will wrap up the first round. What was supposed to be one of the most unpredictable drafts ever was honestly fairly predictable. Tony Mariano goes number 1. The High Rollers stay at number 6, selecting Mark Singleton, the 7'1" big man from Duke. It's a little bit rare for me to pick a big man this early. You guys know I like to build my team through wings, guys who can handle the ball with good size, who can guard multiple positions. I believe that archetype of player is the easiest to build a championship contender around. However, the value is there with Singleton because I think he's got really, really high upside. Does not mean he will play like a 78 overall, though. Again, do not get too excited. He's certainly going to have to earn his minutes on this team. We still have our second round pick. Keep in mind, number 5 overall in the second round, and there are still some fairly solid players available here in round number 2. Some guys who I think can contribute for us very early on going into next year, so I'm hoping they do not end up getting picked. Some guys who we went over during the prospect profiles and some guys who we didn't really talk about who I would still potentially be inclined with picking at our selection. So we'll go through these second round picks pretty quickly. We'll start with the Knicks at number 33. They get Willy Du, a 6'8" sharpshooter from Germany. I think he could play early for them with his knockdown three-point shot. Sacramento Kings are going to be making a trade. They will acquire Luka Garza from the Mavericks for both of their seconds. The Raptors add some picks. The Kings clearly do not like anybody else left on the board. Mele Venema from Spain is going to the Raptors. That's a fun pick. I think he's got some potential. The Charlotte Hornets get DeAndre Manning from Duke. Very talented Blue Devil roster this year. Multiple big players. Singleton 7'3", Cooks 6'10", Manning 6'11", and then the Celtics get Cameron Kampf. I mentioned they're prioritizing three-point shooting. They just got one of the best in this draft from Michigan State. So I put our pick in the trade finder. I like the idea of getting 2 second-rounders for one because, again, 2 shots at the dartboard rather than 1. But there is one player who I really like who is still on the board, and honestly, I would just rather pick them than get multiple second-round picks in the future. A few guys projected in the first round in some mocks. Adebayo Faleke from Nigeria, really high upside player, but he is 23. Ryan Jackson, Jordan Holloway, Brennan's brother, both guys seen in the first round. So with the 37th pick of the 2026 NBA Draft, the Las Vegas High Rollers select Jet Rivers from the University of Connecticut. We are adding an explosive, high-octane guard, one of the most dynamic players with the ball in this class, and a guy who I think, even as an 18-year-old, could get minutes very early on this upcoming season for Las Vegas. I think he's going to become a fan favorite very quickly. 74 overall. Inconsistent, but flashes of 3-level scoring upside. He's a pretty solid playmaker. He's okay defensively, not horrible, but not great. What you're going to notice when you turn on the film is that he lives up to his name. He is quite fast. He was the primary on-ball player this year at UConn, and I do question if he can play off the ball in the NBA because he's not a great catch-and-shoot guy just yet. And for being a second-round undersized guard, I would like to see him be more of an off-ball player offensively. But for now, with his speed with the ball, with his ability to get to the basket super quickly, you can't teach that. You cannot teach the athleticism that this kid possesses. I wish he was a little more efficient at the rim. However, I think his size at 6'3", 6'8" wingspan limits what he can do there a little bit. Defensively, I don't think he's great yet, but it's not for a lack of effort. This kid is tough. He is not an easy player to go up against, but he's got to be more consistent. The little things, the footwork, the hand placement. Nonetheless, I really like this selection and this young man for the second round. I don't really think we're going to make any other moves. I think we're going to stick with what we have, so we're going to make it to the end of the second round and go over some of the notable picks here quickly. Rivers is a 74, ends up being one of the highest rated players of the second round, so we ended up with really good value. Another 74, Ryan Jackson goes to the Sonics. Seattle killed their first draft with Jackson and Julian Wright at number 4 overall. I thought they did an amazing job. The Raptors had a lot of second rounders. They got some good players. I like the big man Corbin. Corso to Orlando. I thought that was a good pick. Brennan Holloway's brother Jordan goes to the Nets. And then Mr. Irrelevant is Gerald Tavares to the Washington Wizards. In terms of the most notable classes, the Hornets had 4 first-rounders, including number 1, Tony Mariano. They are completely hitting the reset button, which they probably should do given how bad they were last year. The Jazz had 3 picks, reuniting the Gators, Romeo De La Rosa and Michael Andrews back on the same team. I thought the Lakers had a good day. I like Stanford. I like the second-round guards they got, Holmes and Abdur Rahim. I thought they made a good trade as well with OKC. The Mavericks ended up with 2 first-rounders and a nice trade getting Max Strus from Cleveland. The Raptors have 5 second-round rookies, but most importantly, they have LaMelo Ball and are hoping to contend in the Eastern Conference after another disappointing season. I thought Seattle made out really well. They had a phenomenal draft. Jamie Thompson, I think, is going to be good in Phoenix. The Thunder, I think, hit on both of their first-rounders. The Blazers with Larry Markkanen should be better next year. Tyler Rose at number 3. I'm excited to see what he does with the Washington Wizards. The Bulls are going to be better. Those 2 guys are going to get them minutes early on. The Celtics, I think, might be the big winner of the day. They had 3 first-rounders. They got a lot of guys who can really shoot the piss out of the basketball. Heat made a good pick. Hawks made a good pick. And that brings it back to us with Mark Singleton and Jet Rivers as the first rookie class in Roller history. Next episode, we'll wrap up the offseason. We will go through free agency. I have not exactly hit my intentions. I want to be aggressive. I want to make this team better this offseason, and we've got the money to potentially do it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you thought of our selections down below in the comments. Don't forget to join the Discord server if you'd like to make a prospect for season number 2. Leave a like, subscribe, hype the video, do all that fun stuff. Peace out.